Georgios Christofides. You will be introduced by one of our students. Please.
So, hello everyone. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Mr. Georgios Christofides, the Ambassador of the Republic of Cyprus to the Italian Republic. Ambassador Christofides was appointed to this post in September 2021 and presented his credential to the President of the Italian Republic on October 27, 2021. In addition to his duties here in Rome, he is also accredited as Ambassador of Cyprus to Switzerland and San Marino, and as High Commissioner to Malta, a clear reflection of the trust placed in him and of his country's commitment to fostering strong regional and European partnerships. Before taking up his current post, Ambassador Christofides built a distinguished career within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus, serving in several key positions, including Director of Energy and Marine Policy, and earlier as head of the European Union Department, where he's also acted as deputy negotiator for the protocol concerning the British bases in Cyprus within the framework of the UK's withdrawal from the European Union. His diplomatic journey has taken him from London to Brussels and New York, where he represented Cyprus both at the permanent representation to the European Union and at the United Nations. Ambassador Christofides holds a law degree from the University of Athens, a postgraduate diploma in European law from the University of Manchester, and a Master of Arts in European Union law from King's College London. Before joining the diplomatic service, he practiced law and was a member of the Cyprus Bar. He brings to his diplomatic work a profound understanding of European and international law, energy policy, and multilateral cooperation, along with a genuine passion for building dialogue and connection among nations. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming His Excellency, Mr. Georgios Christofides.
Good morning to everybody. As you heard, don't believe whatever you hear from, it's too much. I'm just a diplomat that I happen to serve in New York, Brussels, London, and now here as an ambassador. I'm here 4 years already. I should be leaving, but I got an extension, and I'm very happy for that, for this year, because of the presidency of the European Union that Cyprus will hold from January until the 1st of July of next year. We will talk a bit about that. From what I heard from my CV, and thank you very much for the warm introduction. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Diplomazia, Mr. Bartolomucci, to the festival that is hosting me for the 2nd year in a row. Also to you, that you are spending this hour in a lovely morning and you are here to listen to me. Students from Tor Vergata, I understand. I have not prepared anything specific today. I mean, a speech, a written speech. I have done that last year. I was exactly here at the same in the same room. And I exceeded my time, leaving very little time for questions. This year, I thought I shouldn't prepare anything, just appunti, how do you say that in Italian? So we can have maybe a free discussion, not, okay, free, it's, we cannot, as diplomats, be completely free, but you understand what I mean. And mostly even to hear from you, if you were in my position with these very, very crucial dilemmas that, as every year, Diplomazia, with the concept note, they go to the core of the issues that are discussed publicly in universities, of course, and to listen from the perspective of a young generation, students especially, that deal with these matters in a more theoretical way at this point. But later on, I wish you all to apply them in your careers. I said about the concept note, which is, of course, the title is The Cost of Principles. It's a very multifaceted title. It actually goes to the core problem, the core of these dilemmas, which have many other aspects. It's not only the principles and the cost, but which are these principles, who is advancing them, who is the main carrier of these principles, and what is the cost, actually. It's a cost, a military cost, economic cost, and so forth. These are really important questions that I think I will try to go a bit beyond, but using the experience of Cyprus, my country, using it as an example of being a very small country. I think I should really say a few words very, very generally. We are talking about Cyprus is the third biggest island in the Mediterranean. Only smaller than Sicily and Sardinia. So the two biggest countries in the Mediterranean are Italian. Cyprus is the third. If you can imagine also the idea of being Cyprus is the third member state of the European Union, smaller at the bottom, if you take it. Italy is the third biggest member of the European Union. So this difference is huge. When we talk, and I represent Cyprus, a country of around 1 million population, in the Eastern Mediterranean, where already, maybe you can understand, what is the direction that I will take today, apart from also personally being a lawyer. So this dilemma, power versus international law, let's say, for me, it's very clear. In fact, this idea was presented first from Thukydides, if you have heard about him. And it's very clear there what is the actual perception back thousands of years back, and how the world evolved to tackle this exact problem. That is not only power and international law and all that. So that's the one aspect that forms my answer. The second aspect is that we are a small country, Cyprus is a small country with a very big problem, existential one. In 1974, we had the Turkish invasion in Cyprus, which resulted to a continuous occupation of 1/3 of our territory until today. So you can understand also that under these circumstances, what is our principled, let's put it like that, direction of our foreign policy. Of course, it's the solution of the Cyprus problem, but also defending with international law, because we simply, and I'm very honest with you, we cannot do otherwise. We're talking about a country that does not have an air force of its own, let's put it like that, does not have a navy. So the choice between this, what we hear, international law versus military power and all that, for us, it's a luxury of having this. It's not a choice. The only actual weapon we have in our possession is international law. This is how we defend ourselves in this existential threat. If you think about 1/3 of the territory of Cyprus being under occupation, this is an existential threat. The second weapon is, of course, the partnerships. Partnerships with being a member of the European Union, it's the European Union law, and also a country that has traditionally excellent relations with all the neighbors in Eastern Mediterranean, in a very difficult environment, if you see the map where Cyprus is, but also meaning that we have partnerships with our neighbors that go back in time. And through this, through the European Union membership, other alliances we have in the region, we try to enlarge our diplomatic footprint, let's say, in the world. Not with army, not with the power, but with these partnerships. Now, in this, if we want to be a bit more theoretical in this choice, okay, the one direction is international law, European law, defending our interests through this. And the other partnerships, membership in international organizations, the EU is not only an international organization, is much more. Whom do you choose to be your partners? So the question is not partnerships like I wake up one day and now you have a superpower that is very trendy, let's put it like that, diplomatically, it's a superpower, and I change alliances. What is connecting us with the European Union is exactly this, the sharing of principles, the European founding principles of the European Union, the European Union that we will have the honor to guide as presidency for the next 6 months. Things were a bit clearer a few years ago. Huh? What I told you maybe is, I should put it like, it's banal. It's all small countries say this, okay? I feel that from the public debate we have internationally, and also even here in Italy, maybe more, which I really appreciate this fact, the discussion now is much more. It's not small against bigger countries. In fact, it's something that even the Italian diplomats say it, even politicians say it, that the world now is not, there are small countries and countries that they think that they are not small and they are big. Because in today's world, no country on its own, not even Italy, not even France, not even Germany, can believe really that they are big. Also them, they need the European Union, despite the fact that, of course, there are differences, but the power of the European Union is that all 27 member states today, they find a common denominator in their positions internationally, the ones they express, however difficult that might be. So what I'm trying to clarify here is that these partnerships that I put it together with the international law, European law, these partnerships are based on principles. It's not like, you know, a very cynical way of seeing things. It's they are based on values, shared values. The fact that Cyprus, I told, let's get to the concept paper, and actually one example I would like to give you all about this dilemma. If these principles have cost, of course they have cost. I will take an example that is now very, you know, it's discussed everywhere, and maybe it can help you understand that even for small countries, being part of the European Union, defending these principles internationally, aligning with the majority of the European Union and others, has actual tangible cost, economic cost. When Russia invaded Ukraine, just to give you an example, I don't know if you remember, but it was a lot of propaganda going on. Is that an invasion? Was Russia provoked by anything that Ukraine did, about the Russian-speaking population of Ukraine, and all this debate that followed? Cyprus was not an exception of following this very closely. You might know that actually Cyprus was in the past believed to have a lot of Russian investments, but mainly even Russian tourists, hundreds of thousands of tourists. One of the sanctions package that was adopted by the European Union immediately after the war was the termination of direct flights from Russia to all the member states of the European Union. And the question back then, of course, it was, you know, whoever is following these sanctions, aligning and adopting these sanctions, one of the package. We're talking about a lot more. The cost for each country, and you can imagine for Cyprus, the cost to tourism, if you can imagine, which is number one source of our GDP, was huge. But in this debate that was taking place in all capitals, and in fact, even in Cyprus, for us, there was no question. Maybe foreigners really thought, oh, what Cyprus is going to do now with this Russian tourism and all that. There was no dilemma for us because it was exactly the same principle that was violated. The independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of one other state. So we didn't think about it twice. Maybe the average person in Cyprus thought, oh my God, now what's happening or whatever. But, and I will tell you a story to see how diplomats might change the perception in the country of accreditation. We had back then, it was an ambassador that left, who exactly when this package of stopping the flights, the direct flights, was discussed in the European Union, he went on TV in, let's say, RAI, not the one TV station, RAI, prime time, 8 o'clock in the news. He appeared there with the usual arrogance of the big country diplomats, let's put it like that. And he said, what are you doing, you Cypriots? And he spoke very fluently Greek. What are you doing? You are going to, you are shooting yourselves on the foot. Do you know where all these hundreds of thousands, we are talking hundreds of thousands of tourists, Russians will go after what you are going to do? And the journalist said, where, Ambassador? And he said, to Turkey. And immediately the climate changed, threatening that you will be sending hundreds of thousands of tourists to your opponent, let's say, in the conflict, changed actually the mood. And of course, the mere facts, the mere similarities of that invasion with the Turkish invasion in Cyprus are stunning. We're talking about, it's exactly the same excuse, the pretext, let's say, that Turkey used in 1974, saying that, oh my God, there is a coup d'etat against the then government, and the Turkish Cypriots are under threat, they are not treated well. The same like Russia's invasion, just before the invasion was the excuse. The same also about how they named these invasions. Both Turkey and Russia with Ukraine, they named it a peacekeeping operation to bring peace in the island, which was in a state of emergency because of that coup. 51, if there is any question of how this will end, 51 years later in Cyprus, that peacekeeping operation that it had in the headlines, that the aim of that invasion is a peacekeeping operations to bring legality back. We are still there, even though the legality was restored back then. So I'm trying to say that there are difficult choices for governments. There is economic cost, real economic cost, which of course we are ready to assume when our principles are offended, are violated. Cyprus could not really have the luxury of having a different approach, taking this cynic view of, let's say, we don't want our economy to go down. And mind you that our economy is doing much better. We reached out to other tourist sources, other countries, including Italy, I have to say. Also European Union markets that we never paid attention before. And we have managed to recuperare, let's say, this loss. That's one example of the cost. And there are many others. If you want, maybe I don't want to really open a very sensitive discussion on how people think about this invasion or others. I have to say that in Cyprus, there is full support to these principles of the territorial integrity, sovereignty, independence of Ukraine. I am not going to hide that at the average person's mind, in the average person's mind in Cyprus, one cannot really take away a sense of bitterness, let's put it like that, when sees these similarities with what happened 51 years ago. But the reaction to that, not back then, but even today, is not the same. And there is a reason for that. I don't want to get into many details, but Turkey is a powerful country. People, even from liberal democracies, liberal as you can even imagine, the maximum liberalism you can have, which they quote how many Russian journalists, let's say, are in prison. It's number one, I think, in the Council of Europe's list. You can, I forgot to check it out, but you can do it as part of your homework. I don't know. Which country is putting more journalists in jail from the Council of Europe? And I think number two is Turkey. We're talking about thousands of people. So this selective approach, I wouldn't say hypocrisy or double standards, but it's true. It's not prominent, not even in the press, not anywhere. That brings the sense of bitterness, that brings in the average person's mind this black and white. Why are they not doing this for Turkey and only for... But this is not the important thing. It's the important thing is that at the end of the day, we assume the cost and we defend our principles. This is one example. There are many other examples where the cost is heavy, but anyway, for us, there is no question about it. I will not get into other examples. I just want to say that despite this dilemma, this difference of opinion sometimes, even in the European Union, on many issues, at least we have the union as a union of values, of principles. And this is why I think also we are too pessimistic, I think, at the end of the day, in the European Union. We are seeing everywhere that all the achievements we have made until today, they are really, it's something banal, it's something that we take for granted. It's not like that. That's why if you see around the European Union, you will see so many other countries wanting to join. And they don't do it all only for the economic benefit they will have from membership. They also do it for the sense of security, of the sense of belonging to the same values, the same group, club of countries that they share exactly the same principles. And that's the optimistic approach I would like to take today, not to blame everything in this black and white, that, oh, the world is collapsing, the UN is collapsing. Of course, if it's not of interest, I think I will give you the opportunity to ask the questions if you know anything, if you want to ask or to say something. Can you please, excuse me, if you want to have a question? Yes? Okay. No, it's just, I'm finishing. I just wanted, I was listening to rumor and it's distracting me. I really wanted to finish with this optimistic approach and leave more time to you, and also with your questions, if you're kind enough to say, oh yes, I also see this, how do you say, this distortion of between the two directions. What would I choose if I was in your shoes? So with these very few words, I give you the floor and ask questions or even say your opinion. Thank you.
Would you like to take more questions or answer one question at a time?
One. Let's guess.
Yes, Has.
Yeah.
Ευχαριστώ που ήρθατε σήμερα. I'm Yunus and I'm Turkish. My question is related more to the fact that maybe there is an aspect of distrust in Western powers to intervene in case of any grants given by them. Because basically what we see in Ukraine right now, we've spoken to many other people in the previous days, and some of them stated that they think Ukraine is in a not so bad condition. So, I mean, 500,000 casualties and their airspace is closed for years. I wouldn't agree, at least, and we can also see the situation in Gaza. So do you think that there is an aspect that the Western powers are not trusted enough to be taking security grants from, as in negotiations on the side of Turkey? And also my other question is that we've also spoke to Martin Selmayr, His Excellency of the European Union's embassy in Rome. He stated some really nice, inspiring points, and he mentioned the way he was working a lot to embrace the culture between both sides in Cyprus and try to push for room for peace and negotiations. And I'm going to ask you something from the similar side, that Cyprus is facing a lot of natural disasters like earthquake, wildfires, and floodings. So do you think that, and in the time of the earthquakes and fires, Greece and Turkey were willing to help each other? And do you think that it's possible to take a step towards the natural disaster management in Cyprus to embrace another side of the culture from both sides? Thank you.
Thank you. I will just stick to the question and not to go to the Ukraine stuff you mentioned. It's good to know how other people think about that and the security guarantees. On Selmayr, the ambassador of the European Union to San Marino and the policy, yes, I think he was the head of the cabinet of Juncker, the previous president of the European Commission. He was involved in some negotiations. It was very interesting. He helped. There are specific stuff, facts, and not really fake news or whatever that we can stick to. I think this idea of, let's say, cooperating with, I don't know whom, about wildfires, that we had extremely bad ones during the summer, is a very good idea. But, okay, it's every time there is this kind of cooperation between the two communities, let's say, the only thing we see as Greek Cypriots, but also representatives of the state, as the state, the only recognized state, is that every time there is a question like that, the effort is not the actual help. The effort is the promotion of the cessationist entity, which is only recognized by Turkey. It's of the north, the so-called TRNC. There are much simpler and more effective ways to solve the Cyprus problem. The last effort, very concerted effort, it was in 2017. We came very close, the two communities with the three guarantor powers. I don't know, how old are you? 20. In 2004, I was 30, let's say, when there was a referendum about that, the Annan plan, as we call it. But that was much before. In 2017, again, where the problem, the solution offered, even in general terms, on the table, failed for one reason, actually two. It's the keeping Turkish army in Cyprus after the solution, and the continuation of the right of guarantee that we have today. Can you imagine that Cyprus now is, its freedom, its independence and sovereignty is guaranteed by, because that's the constitution we have from 1960 when we became independent from the British colonialism, from Turkey, Greece, and the United Kingdom. Two of these countries are outside the European Union now. There was one, now the British left. In which universe a 20-year-old today, which will be called to go and vote in a referendum in Cyprus, in a solution, will vote wholeheartedly yes, when the country that will guarantee, and that's why Turkey says that we will never give up our right to guarantee the solution, will continue to be. It's the same country that invaded, thrown out of their houses 200,000 people, probably their parents, a 20-year, probably their parents were left by force from their houses in the north, because Cyprus was not divided always. The Turkish Cypriots were in the north, the Greek Cypriots in the south. We had mixed villages, so that's the one point I would like to make. So the most simple thing to do before we move to the wildfires, which are welcome or whatever, but to have a cooperation and all that, it's this. For me, it's this, and it's very easy. We managed to come very close, maybe 90% of how the government will be structured. But the sticking point still, it was before, and it still is this, is the guarantor rights, the permanent presence of Turkish army in the island, in a European Union. Can you imagine a European Union member state to be guaranteed as if we are so immature or whatever by Turkey or by the United Kingdom? But that's the way it is. These are the important things. And I'm very glad, and we have to say this, being optimistic. Last night, there were so-called elections in the occupied part of Cyprus. The leader of the Turkish Cypriot community until yesterday was Mr. Tatar, a person that believed to the solution of the two-state solution, meaning recognition of the North and like us, and then form some form of cooperation, maybe for the wildfires, I don't know, but this kind of stuff. A confederation that you minimize the cooperation. That's not a solution. It's rubber stamping the division of the island. And the new leader has never done that. But I have to say this, the Tatar, the previous leader of the Turkish community, had the full support of the Turkish government, of Erdogan himself. He said it publicly many times. That was the problem, that the Turkish position changed from a federation, that all the Security Council resolutions speak about a solution like a federation. He changed the position of Turkey, and that's why we didn't have negotiations from 2017, already 8 years. Despite all the efforts of our president, they had meetings with the Secretary General of the United Nations and Mr. Tatar. And now, if the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community not only talks the talk, but walks the walk, as we say, and he doesn't believe the two-state solution, and he would like to, as previously has said, he wants the federation as a solution, I think things might move to the positive direction. In the meantime, until we find the solution of the Cyprus problem, a comprehensive solution, I have to say here, because nobody knows that, the 110 or maybe 120,000 Turkish Cypriots that live in the occupied part, they have Cypriot passports. Every day we have 10,000 of them crossing the line to the south to work. They fly and they have the passports and IDs, they are Cypriots. They feel that. I think also this is also something that I should have said before, and thank you for the opportunity. The Turkish Cypriots in 2004, when we had the infamous, I would say, referendum on the Annan plan, they voted yes, because we were about to become member of the European Union. Believe me that if Cyprus was not a member of the European Union, we wouldn't even discuss the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community. We wouldn't have this effort in 2017, because the Turkish Cypriots would turn their head away from the solution. They would see that the only thing that they would get from a solution was, I don't know, cooperation, which would not be good with the Greek Cypriots, and they will turn to Turkey for everything. Until today, I think the membership of Cyprus in the European Union, it's a very big incentive for the Turkish Cypriot, even for voting the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community last night. Sorry to take much over. The lady she was asking before.
Kalimera, Mr. Christofides. I'm Turkish. My name is Aslı, and I have a couple of questions. So I follow Cyprus closely, and I want to talk about what comes for Cyprus. So as you mentioned, the leader of the Turkish Republican Party was elected last night, Mr. Erhuman. He has served before, and his party is pro-federalist. His party is not totally pro one Cypriot governorship. He wants more Turkish Cypriots in the cabinet, and they are still pro-reunification. So how do you firstly view this development in terms of a more of a federal state? Because I personally support a United Cyprus now and a federal state solution for Cyprus. And how do you support, how do you see this for the reunification negotiations commencement, especially cooperation against Greece and Turkey's growing impact on the island? Also, if this federal solution was achieved, what would be the current government's, the Cypriot government's, the recognized Cypriot government's approach and vision for an integrated system of governance? Because the new Turkish Cypriot leader has mentioned before that he wants more Turkish representation in the cabinets. And my last question is, how would your government seek to rebuild the trust and cooperation between the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot communities and the integration, especially because it is a much divided culturally, religiously, and linguistically island right now? Thank you.
I'm very happy you feel like that because you mentioned the position of federalism. No, it's not only our position since ever. It's the UN's stated position from the Security Council in resolutions is included that the solution should be based on a bizonal, bicommunal federation with political equality as described in the other Security Council resolutions, which means, and to answer to your questions, not a numerical equation, a numerical equality, meaning 5-5. That would not be fair anyway to the majority, which happens to be the Greek Cypriot community, but substantive equality. There will be, of course, the majority of ministers, let's say, from the Greek Cypriot community, and that is absolutely accepted by the Turkish Cypriot community itself. And of course, it's going to be 7-3, 6-4, I don't know. There were many plans on how to divide. The important thing is to have decisions that are going to be taken unanimously in the federal government, which we very much approve, and we would like to see happening. We have even moved to more decentralized federation. In the last round of negotiations in 2017, mind you that we are beyond the discussion of how many ministers will be or how many, I don't know, officials in the federal government. We are talking about two component parts. It's in the zone, by zonal, it's two zones in each part of the federal government, that they will also have their own parliament. These are the important things that came up to, and they are agreed. Nobody is now discussing this. They are agreed. That's why I said to your colleague here, also from Turkey, that the real thorn in all the efforts is this, is external, is Turkey. I'm sorry to say that, but it's if you study a bit the history of Cyprus, it's a pity, but it's true. If you see Cyprus on the map, you can understand why Turkey wants Cyprus. It's not rocket science, for God's sake. Look where Cyprus is. That cannot be done. We cannot really allow this. No decent person that really believes that its country has to be independent and we decide, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots together for ourselves, we cannot allow having someone else the final okay. Let me give you one example that I just joined the foreign ministry in 2004 for the Annan plan. Okay. I haven't talked, and maybe it's a very good opportunity for me to do it, about the role of Cyprus in the Eastern Mediterranean, okay? we had the war in Gaza, okay? We managed to put together the maritime corridor for giving assistance to Gaza, humanitarian assistance. After a lot of talks with the Israelis to allow that, after a lot of checks and all that, we managed to send a lot of humanitarian assistance to Israel, to Gaza, actually. This role, having excellent relations with all our neighbors, Israel, Egypt. With Egypt, we are, my president said once that, everybody was making fun of him, that is his second home in Egypt. Lebanon, the same. If you cannot believe the cultural connection we have with the Lebanese. In any case, that role in the Eastern Mediterranean that we have now, in 2004, in the Annan Plan, there was a provision. Imagine that for Cyprus as a member state to put its territory, make its territory available to the European peacekeeping operation, European only, we had to have, listen to this, this is one of this crazy stuff, and people then wonder why we said no, that we would be a member, that we would like to have the to offer to the European Union to make available our territory, and we had, in order to say yes to Brussels, we had to go through the following process. We would have the federal government say yes, the two component parts governments, the Turkish Cypriot government of the north, the Greek Cypriot government that will be below the federal one, say yes, and mind you, to have also the okay of the three guarantor powers. So again, and I'm sorry to use this term, I don't like it, but in what universe, in what really universe, an independent country, in order to make available for its own reasons, to make available to partners, a peacekeeping operation to go to Lebanon, we had to ask Turkey the okay. And why, we all understand why that was in the plan. We all understand also why Turkey would say no. Because if Cyprus there is seen as competitive to whatever geopolitical games they have in mind, we are the big power, 80 million and all that. And you have the Piccolo, Cipro, whatever it's, they think of us, assisting the European Union as a member, they would like not to have that. So that's the idea. The independence of Cyprus does not go through the equality or the federal stuff will be solved in one day. If the principal thorn in finding a solution is this, and I really hope what you said about the new leader, I really hope that he will not go under the full influence of Turkey, because we all know how it is in Cyprus. And the Turkish position, the Turkish government position, Erdogan himself, they are unfortunately today in favor of a two-state solution, recognition of the so-called TRNC, which will never happen because people doesn't love the Greek Cypriots. Let me be very honest with you. They have not recognized the TRNC, the whole world, and I'm sorry to say this too. It's not because of love of the Greek Cypriots. It's because it's a major precedent. If something happens like that, you see the discussions about Crimea and all that now, and we're not so much. We don't have the influence of Ukraine and the support like they have. So that's my short answer. I really agree with you, and it's a good opportunity now with the new leadership. If he really follows exactly this, which is from us, it's what we would like to see. We would have positive developments if he follows through what he promised.
Thank you for having us today, Mr. Ambassador. And my name is Osama. I'm from Morocco. And I have two questions in different fields. So the first question is concerning the minor borders in the Eastern Mediterranean, and the gas resources there. Since the beginning of the new millennium, Cyprus and the Eastern Mediterranean country has signed a lot of minor agreements to decide the minor borders between them. And in a lot of cases, some countries didn't agree with each other. After the agreement between Cyprus, Greece, Israel, and
Egypt. Egypt.
Greece, Israel, and Cyprus.
Yeah, Greece, we don't have an agreement, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
Egypt, yes. Israel and Lebanon, yes.
After that, Turkey had made a separate agreement between Turkey and Libya, which go against the agreement between Cyprus and the other 4 countries. So my first question is how Cyprus is planning to protect its maritime borders. And my second question is, as you said, Cyprus is facing an occupation in the north. And that's one of the main reasons why Cyprus is supporting causes like Ukrainian cause. But at the other part, we see that Cyprus, when about the issue of Palestine and Israel, it's supporting this 2-state solution that is mainly saying that Palestine have to give up 70% of its territory to Israel and be demilitarized and allowing foreign military to be on its territory. So don't you consider it as hypocritism to support your own independence and at the same time having no problem for other countries to give up their integrity? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Of course, the 2-state solution for Palestine and Israel is very, very different from the Cyprus problem. I don't have the time, I don't have the resources to point to the history of the Palestinian issue. I just limit myself to say that Cyprus recognized all these discussion now, France, blah, all these discussion about Cyprus. Do you know that Cyprus has recognized the Palestinian state? Do you know that? Cyprus. We have recognized the Palestinian state in 1980, before becoming so much trendy with the Gaza and all that. So the hypocrisy lies elsewhere. Believe me, to the Cypriots, do not tell about occupation, and not because I'm a diplomat. I'm just saying that no hypocrisy there. The fact that, and there are 2 different problems, you cannot compare the one with the other. We cannot compare the one with the other. There was no invasion per se, or the discussion about the 2-state solution in Palestine has a completely different context. Second, coming back to the energy stuff, that's why you asked me, because I was the director of energy in Cyprus before coming here, and I dealt a lot with these maritime agreements. Cyprus has today agreements for the delimitation, as they are called, of maritime zones with Egypt, Israel, and Lebanon. Lebanon has not ratified it, but it accepts the limits. With Greece, we have not done so, but we both, with Greece and all of the countries, a part of Turkey, have ratified the International Convention on the UNCLOS, the Convention on the Law of the Sea. So there are very simple stuff that Turkey can do even in that respect. But if you see the agreement that Turkey has signed with Libya, it's not that comes into actually doesn't really affect us literally, our agreements that we did, because it's different. It's so, let's be very clear, please take a map. If I knew that I have very nice maps that you have the map. They pretend that even Crete, the island of Crete, does not exist. That's exactly like that. Yes, yes, what is that? Look at that. It's like there are no islands in between, and Cyprus, our exclusive economic zone, does not exist west of the island. No? Yes? How many miles do you think it's that? Look at Cyprus and the west of Cyprus. Can we put it on? I will explain to you in 5 minutes, but this is a very interesting discussion for me. West of Cyprus, there is no exclusive economic zone. Turkey, in its magnanimous position, allows us to have territorial waters only, 12 nautical miles, 12. That's what it says. Imagine this hypocrisy that Cyprus, a recognized state, will have on the west only territorial waters, 12 nautical miles, no exclusive zone. But the north, the non-recognized state, they have full exclusive economic zone. And they have the audacity to go to the United Nations and prepare note verbals and say that islands like Cyprus do not have, they are not entitled to exclusive economic zone. That's the spirit. Islands like Crete, for example, does not exist, and Cyprus does not have the right of having exclusive economic zone. But for a non-recognized state, the TRNC, which is the northern part of an island, for God's sake, they have plenty of exclusive economic zone, not only territorial waters. The agreement between Libya and Turkey has been found by the European Union, by all the countries of the region, as illegal and contrary to the Convention on the Law of the Sea. It's a very nice, actually, issue to make it bigger in our discussion. There are plenty of examples of, one country to go to have refuge in international law because we cannot, I said it from the beginning, we cannot send our frigates to protect our gas, which we have. Do you know why? I said it before, because we don't have a navy, we don't have frigates. So our only weapon to do that was international law and the Convention of the Law of the Sea. We are an island. Libya had a dispute with Malta, a small state, 20 times smaller than Cyprus in territory. They went with Libya in the 1980s again to the International Court of Justice. They got an agreement, they got a decision that gave not half because it's too small, Malta is too small, and they count the length of the coast when they say how much you will take and how much you don't. So Libya got more, but then the court said, we'll give them a bit more because they are an independent state, island. So we have not only the law of the sea that Turkey has not, the only country of the world, together with the United States, I think, that have not ratified the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Does not recognize it. They do whatever they want. They send their frigates out. And the only thing we have as a weapon to defend, because you asked me, how do we defend? I will tell you. We send note verbals. We quote the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. And we did something more. That's why, and it's a very good and nicely put question, this, for me to finish about the partnerships. And what else about it's the UN international law, the convention, and the European Union law. We managed to get in the European Union targeted sanctions on Turkey's illegal activities in our exclusive economic zone. And there are sanctions regime. I really encourage you to go on the EU website to find them, read them, see the codes of the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, make the match, and see finally what I said at the beginning, that our partnerships are not partnerships cynical, that they change every day, like others, that one day we go and beg the European Union to get into the safe regulation, and the next day we do this with the Iran leader and Putin, like Erdogan does. So that's what I say, consistency, non-hypocrisy. That's what I say, you use the tools of international law and European law that you have in your capacity being a member, and have partnerships with fellow member states of the European Union that you share the same values. You share the same values. That's a very crucial thing. We don't change every day depending on where the money is. It's not all about money. It's also values. You cannot have a map from Turkey to Libya as if you have a virtual island in the middle. These things do not happen in today's world. But with the propaganda, it's something a very big chapter that we would like, I would like to touch upon. What people think changed today. You see the artificial intelligence, but actually that agreement, when it came out, Everybody in Cyprus and Greece thought it was artificial intelligence. Nobody would believe that, you take a line and you make the whole of the Mediterranean yours. Anyway, I stop here. I hope we have time or any other question? Yeah, please. Yes, he was insisting from the beginning, I think. You're not from Turkey too, no?
Hello, my name is Mikhail. I'm from Moldavia, and I'm from Moldova. So first of all, we do in fact support Cyprus because we like you guys. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my question would be, Turkish occupation of the northern Cyprus is not older than me. It's older than my parents.
Exactly.
We are discussing diplomacy with Turkey for 50 years, more than 50 years. So I wanted to ask, what do you think should be European Union and NATO strategy following forward? Because it seemingly, didn't bear any fruit to it. And what shall we do with it? Thank you.
I said it before about the federation, the solution, yes. What we would expect, and being a member of the European Union, we can use our leverage to influence a bit of decisions of putting more pressure on Turkey, especially about the two-state solution. The obstacle now is that to discuss a solution, a federal state with a lot of independence, let's put it without legal terms, a lot of autonomy, let's say, in the northern part and in our part. Because at the beginning of the discussions where really things got very complicated, very complicated. We wanted to have this political equality that your colleague mentioned before, in order to have the Turkish Cypriots feel very assured that they will not be left out from the decisions. We started discussing in detail about creating a federal council for the union of the hairdressers, a federal council of the union of any other, the electricians, because they also have all this stuff. At some point, we're pushing things to separation, because you knew that if one of these, let's say, council of hairdressers, that they wanted their rights, recognized, they couldn't give in the internal consultation of the government, give their go ahead for a change of the horario, let's say, or then you would have a block on that decision or the other. The important thing is that we will have this kind of low policy stuff handled in autonomous manner. That will limit the friction between the two communities at the federal level. We will have a federal government that will be fully functioning, because nobody wants a solution that will not function and to have conflict in the future. Really, nobody. This is the actual fear of the Greek Cypriots. This is the problem here. That's why the interference of Turkey is so crucial in terms of military in the island and the guarantor rights. You're from Moldova. What better guarantees, someone asked me before, is there for the Turkish Cypriots and us of being a member of the European Union? Moldova is doing that for this. Ukraine, because of the NATO problems, whatever, and how Putin considers the Ukraine, again, Zelensky has said it, that the best, let's say, security clause could be from the membership one day of the European Union. That's the same for us. It's ridiculous to request third countries to guarantee a member state of the European Union. So I really believe with it's not so difficult apart from the issue of control of an independent state. For us, we are islanders, we are very internationally minded, and we have, people don't know that there is a difference with the Turkish Cypriots. Allow me to say, even from people from Turkey and not Turkish Cypriots, but there is a lot of similarities between Cypriots, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots. I mean, seriously. They feel it. Even if there is a young generation now, they are taught by their parents that they used to live together with the Greek Cypriots with no problem in some villages. In others, yes, there were problems, but nothing in today's world that cannot be handled, really, and not lead us to conflicts. So I'm hopeful, as long as there are the young generation in the Greek Cypriot community and in the Turkish Cypriot community, that they want to live together in a federated state, I am really cautiously optimistic, let's put it like that, if the real problem of the Cyprus problem is removed.
Mr. Christofides, you previously mentioned the closeness of Mr. Tatar's so-called regime with Erdogan's current regime in Turkey. And if it is not too harsh to say this, Mr. Tatar's puppet regime, how it was supported by Erdogan. And Erdogan is currently holding the primary oppositional candidate for the presidency of Turkey, Mr. İmamoğlu, in prison right now. Mr. İmamoğlu is a close supporter of the Turkish Cypriots' right for autonomy and negotiations with the Greek Cypriot community for a resolution for Cyprus. My question is, with the majority support of the Turkish people against this imprisonment of Mr. İmamoğlu, if there was a governmental change in Turkey, do you see any, as a diplomat, diplomatic relations between this new federal Cyprus or this current Cypriot government and Turkey? And what would be the Cypriot government's, either this Cypriot government's or this federal Cypriot government's requests towards Turkey for diplomatic relations? Thank you.
We, our position is that we would like very much to have a dialogue with this Turkish government and any future one. We don't have a problem. It's Turkey that does not recognize us as a state, and they don't officially talk to us. Bilaterally, informally, there have been contacts, even at the highest level, between my president and even the foreign minister of Turkey, even recently. It was reported in the press after the enlarged conference we had under the UN, meaning the three guarantor powers and the two leaders of the island. There were some contacts. The problem is that Turkey, because they have this position or that they recognize the TRNC, which is only them they recognize, they don't recognize us. In the future, I'm really hopeful, of course, with a federated solution and the federated government, it's going to be the federated government. Of course, there will be full-fledged diplomatic relations with the Turkish government and this one and the next. The issue here is how this current government, current meaning the last 20, 25 years now, Erdogan, this current government will change its position on the Cyprus problem. And they are calling the shots. Erdogan is calling, unfortunately. And that's why I said very diplomatically, I think that the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community until today has been really, I see colleagues of, but they are not. He has been saying all the correct things. He has not supported publicly a two-state solution. He talks about these two parts of Cyprus to be autonomous or even, sovereign decisions, which is a term which we do not accept. Only states have sovereign decisions. But in any case, he talks the talk. Let's see what happens with Erdogan. There have been in the past, and we have to say that there have been leaders of the Turkish Cypriot community like Akinci that stood up even publicly to Erdogan. And see where he ended, the opposition. He was retired. He was retired. So I really hope things will, but on our part, there is this, imagine that they don't officially, the Turkish government does not officially recognize Cyprus, but they are typically candidates for accession to the European Union, typically. They come to Brussels. They sit around the table. I personally was in Brussels representing Cyprus, and we had association council positions, association council with Turkish government back then. He was sitting on the table across the corridor there in a round table. The foreign minister of Turkey. We would talk. As I talk, I mean, this is it's a virtual non-recognition. I mean, if you take it legally, they participate with the 27 and Turkey in the UN. But EU is even more prominent, that you cannot go there, have a meeting with the 27 foreign ministers like Fidan, the foreign minister of Turkey is doing now, and you pretend I don't recognize him. Okay, you are sitting there with the name tag on the table, Cyprus. Doesn't say Greek Cypriot administration. So all this, I wanted to say this even, and don't misunderstand me, don't really take it wrongly. But I'm not very hopeful also for future governments in Turkey. And the reason is that people that tend to be, they have a tendency to autocracy, let's say, tendency, let's say, which is recognized by all. The way sometimes use the media, whatever is left of the free media in nowadays, or the propaganda and all that, they push large parts of the society towards nationalism. And this is a very big problem in many countries of the world, many countries of the world, where you expect the liberal opposition in some, the fact is that with the narrative of the current government, they push in the in the extreme. Let's put it like it's not only nationalistic, it's in the extreme. So I see the opposition in Turkey also sometimes on the Cyprus problem. Maybe they are worse positions than Erdogan himself, if you can believe it. It's true. It's because they feel the pressure that, in many countries they do it. The governments, they say, I will never surrender. The opposition says cannot be left out of this competition of the nationalism, let's say. So it needs a bit more encouragement, even the population of one country, of being more flexible, see things differently, and not close up in the narrative you have in your mind and you feed them every day.
I think we're done with the questions. Thank you, Ambassador, for your time.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks.